our introduction was like maybe less than 5 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
That's actually how it works. In my life, especially, I used to travel around the world, work with lots of people, and sometimes 2 minutes can change the whole life.
Through experience, I learned more about me, my limitations, how other people perceive me. And from learning about that, having a better self-awareness, you can become a better leader because then you are better at dealing with other people.
If you are so much obsessed by the outcome, and the outcome basically can be or cannot be, the only thing I can impact is now. Welcome to our second episode of Mindful Global Sales podcast, which is organized by me, Julija, Mindful Global Sales expert with more than 20 years experience across markets and cultures, empowering people all around the world for great achievements, global mindset, growth mindset to really achieve the best results all over the world. And here I have an amazing guest again. And so happy to have Matiss today here today together with me, sharing again the insights, the experiences, and first of all the thoughts and inspirations that will help other entrepreneurs globally to become
Hopefully,
absolutely, I'm sure for that to become first of all persistent with the strategies, with tactics, and also with the right mindset. So. Welcome, Matiss.
Thank you for the great introduction.
I'm so happy to first of all meet you for the first time. We met, our introduction was like maybe less than 5 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's
at the conference.
At the conference, and that's actually how it works. In my life, especially, I used to travel around the world, work with lots of people, and sometimes 2 minutes can change the whole life. Have you been in such situations before?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've done a lot of conferencing back in the day when I was fundraising for my first business.
Yeah.
I mean, half of my time, 60% of my time was basically spent fundraising, and most of that time was in conferences looking for people that are part of venture capital funds or professional investors. And you would try to speak to them, and then you never know, most of them, they would reject you or they would give you a business card but would never follow up or never answer.
Yeah.
But then there are some that you would eventually be able to talk to, and eventually we got one broker. We didn't even meet the investor, the end investor. At the very beginning, we met the broker that introduced us to another broker that eventually introduced us to the investor that, which was a big bank from Africa, of all places, which ended up investing in our company. And then a couple of years later, they bought the whole business that we had built. So yeah, for sure, you need to search for these introductions.
Absolutely true. And that's actually how the life shows you that if you are open with the open mindset, right, looking into not only opportunities but also challenges, then things will come. And they will come so natural that you simply need to make this happen, right?
True.
Yeah. Once again, proving the fact that mindset makes the whole thing, right? And if you come to conference,
hard work, I would say,
and hard work as well, and like in psychology, I mentioned like 50 or 80% of the success is built out of the right, let's say, attitude, and only 20% is the action itself.
Yeah, the right attitude, the right attitude. That's, I guess, super important. It costs nothing. Anybody or everybody can have the right attitude in terms of professional, being on time, being prepared, being likable, even though that's already more of a skill. Training to be good at introducing yourself, things that don't, cost money or they're not particularly difficult. You don't need to have a very high IQ to be in a position where you have this very professional attitude, and that sets you apart from many others. Or just following up, being able to say no, these very basic things that people learn in their professional life actually over time, because at school you don't get to learn these things. But I think the attitude is a very good word.
And also at the conference I met you, you spoke about experiments, and that's really about attitude. It's really about your growth mindset, which is about not being attached too much to the outcome, to the result, but attached to the process. Right?
Yeah.
To the performance itself.
I'm not a good person to be attached to the process because I'm very outcome obsessed. and sort of dependent, and that's not a good thing because outcomes are often not as you expect or as you want, and then you are upset, and I would get angry or upset or kind of demotivated by some outcomes that are not going my way, and then and you kind of want to control all the outcomes. So that's my approach, and that's not good. But it is good in that it gives you motivation to really work hard and be professional and be detail orientated and kind of obsessive about getting results. So that's great. But I don't have great formulas and suggestions for how to enjoy the process. I'm not a person that is great at enjoying things. I'm more I'm more worried and obsessed a bit about getting the results. So that's my formula.
That's also a way of achieving results, I would say, by being focused on the outcome is important, but at the same time, you should have a kind of a balance between taking care of yourself, taking care of the process itself, because, I just discovered recently a very important finding for myself that whatever I'm doing, is it business, life, relationships, something may end anytime.
Right.
If I'm so much obsessed,
life can end anytime.
Exactly, and which means that if you are so much obsessed by the outcome, and the outcome basically can be or cannot be, the only thing I can impact is now.
That's all great. I totally agree. It's all amazing. But go tell a 23-year-old that is starving and has no options in life and wants to make something out of themselves that enjoy the process. Fuck that. I mean,
give me the
you gotta work your ass off until you get some outcomes, until you can prove to yourself and to others that you're worthy of reaching great results, and then you can maybe get into a position where you start enjoying things, you start appreciating things, you start thinking in a way that you describe. I think it's also age related. A mindset that you're describing is you can't have that mindset when you're 20 years old.
20 years,
if you're 20 years old, you just think it's all black and white, work hard or don't, I'm going to make everything happen. Everything depends on me. It's all about my input. At least that's how I was thinking. And then you get wiser, older, you face challenges, you understand that you actually control very little, and then you can start, kind of relaxing, letting go and so on. So it's a whole journey.
That's a whole journey of development. Absolutely. You mentioned 20 years age, and for me it was the years of challenges, like from 20s till 30s. I was traveling around the world, but coming from the very small province city where I said my life belongs to me.
Yeah.
So I come from Kraslav, which is like Latgale, small. Those who listen to us from other countries may learn about this location, but basically already at that age, before even at school, I decided that I will connect the world. I will make the world a better place. This was like inner mission.
Wow.
And of course, I wasn't enjoying the process. I was just running after the opportunities.
I never had that
connecting. I was creating business, whatever, opportunities right there at school, and connecting my school with the Spanish school, because I used to speak several languages at the same time. I was connecting scouts. I was connecting Rotary clubs. Even people didn't know anything of it. But this is basically the thing that you say, that once you are attached to the dream, let's say my persistence was attached to the dream, that it's not only the dream of being myself, the better version of myself, but making the world a better place. I really felt like there is some kind of inner mission.
You had that feeling at the childhood?
Yes.
I was just watching cartoons and playing football. That was my thing.
The beginning of everything.
Yeah.
But 20s was the age when I came from this little city in Riga with the 10 lats in a pocket, saying that I will not stay in my countryside, never. However, my parents were really pushing on me, saying that with your talent, you should contribute to your hometown, like you should make Kraslava a better place in the world. And I said, I will, I definitely will. And one day you will put the poster of Julija, which they are doing already. Everywhere they know me. And not only Kraslava, it's like whole world already can talk about me. When you mentioned Madame Julie, or Madame Herbeltik, that's Madame Julie, it's me.
Okay.
So I created my brand based on my basically dream of building something which will make world connected. So yes, connecting partners, connecting organizations, connecting opportunities. And I can be proud of very significant projects already at the school times. But when I came to Riga, I realized that it's me alone, building myself, and by full trust to universe, as I used to now meditate a lot, I still trust universe saying me which is the right way to go. And that moment when I felt that I will meet, first of all, a person who will help me right at the bus station, staying next to me, saying, Julia, what if you stay at our apartment and then we show you the university you want to apply for? I applied for 3 universities, and I was studying at 3 universities at the same time. And also in the next 2 months, I was already living in Barcelona and working for IT company aviation and charter company. So, which was also part of my child dream. So, by having nothing but being absolutely attached to the dream, that what made me always ready to act. And without any barriers, without any kind of... when I hear somebody telling me this is not possible or this is not part of a strategy, I say, who told you that? Like, I speak to so many companies around the world, coaching them for success, for global growth, and they still talk about fears, about uncertainties, about some kind of... let's say risks, and I say the only opportunity.
But there are risks in
business. There are always, actually, and there are opportunities are in risks. You need to come into this mode in order to build opportunities. Definitely. Otherwise, it's just playing the easy game. And who needs the easy game if you want to, again, make some change in the world? Is it your personal world or the business world? What was your dream when you were small guy walking down the street?
I don't remember. I didn't have a particular dream. Definitely not as ambitious as yours. I wanted to get into a good school. Mm-hmm. That was my primary school objective. Mm-hmm. When I got into a good school, then I guess I wanted to continue going to a good university. I didn't have an idea or necessarily like a vision that I want to be an entrepreneur. Because there were not a lot of examples of entrepreneurs around. And then I got into uni. Even at that point, I didn't necessarily think or feel like I need to build a business. I was more keen to get into investment banking in finance because those were some examples of, let's say, people that I saw that are taking up jobs in these very cool investment banks and they make a lot of money and bonuses and so on. So I thought that's interesting. And that also corresponded to my, like maths background and quantitative kind of like background that I studied in secondary school and also in university. So I managed to get into a big investment bank, get on the trading floor in London. And there in parallel, I started experimenting with some business ideas with a friend of mine who was still back in Latvia at that time. Mm-hmm. And then we eventually came up with this idea of doing loans to consumers. And that quickly turned into an actual, let's say, small startup in parallel to me working in a bank. And kind of gradually I figured out that doing my own business where I'm on my own and then I'm my own boss and I don't have, people tell me what to do and so on. That kind of fits much better my, way of working and thinking and organizing time and so on. And then I started pursuing, let's say, not entrepreneurship, but just building a company. And I just figured that really felt like I'm in the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess that's...
Sounds like very simple game, but it isn't. It was always about creating opportunities around you.
Well, I don't know if it was creating opportunities around me. It was more about having some specific goals, objectives, ambition. I always definitely had a lot of ambition. I always was not satisfied in the position that I was at. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to get to a better school or whatever, different position and then a bigger business. The one moment I felt like I'm in the right place at the right time was when I started working on my own company. Yeah. And that's when I felt I don't have like some people telling me what to do, because before that at school you have a system that tells you what to do, how to behave, who to be, what's good, what's not. Mm-hmm. In university, you to a lesser extent, but again, you have like a system that you need to play by. Mm. Then you get a job. Then again, you have somebody that tells you what to do and how to be. And there are, rules to that you need to play to become successful. So let's say investment banking, there were specific rules that I needed to play to get promoted. And one of those rules eventually was to get a great MBA, yes, from top universities in the world, which is a bunch of nonsense. Like, you need to follow this ridiculous CV playing game. And when you get mature and old enough, you understand it's just a ridiculous game that's invented by a system and a culture and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I had the opportunity to just not be part of any kind of, in building a business, you're still part of a system. There are rules to play by and so on. But at least in your everyday life, you can create your own reality and so on. So I think it was more about, setting objectives. Oftentimes it was a scenario where I would set a goal and then I spend like a year, 2 years trying to achieve that goal, and then I achieve it. And I understand it's actually, it's not something that is fulfilling or exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Not always, but it oftentimes was the case where let's say this investment banking experience, I spent 2 years at university trying to get into a top investment bank. I got the job, and then I realized that I'm not inspired by the job. The people around me are not super exciting. All they talk about is the next holiday. It's just, they make a lot of money and it's high prestigious, job and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you understand that you were kind of pursuing a goal that you're not that happy about eventually, that it's not yours. And that teaches you to have this mindset of, okay, if it's something that, requires too much work or effort, if it doesn't come to some extent easily and doesn't fit into places at the right time, then you need to pay attention to those types of signals as well. Maybe it's just not something that you need to pursue.
Yeah.
Because I had this very obsessive kind of like tunnel vision, get it done at all costs type of attitude that always, helps a lot, and it's great and it's fantastic. But again, as any other tool, it's not something that you can apply always at all times. So it was my story is more about kind of figuring out,
and that drives you in me to for change, right? Every signal of discomfort may be the great fuel for change.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. I feel it really a power of most of the leaders across the world who really want to achieve something. They first of all talk about things like where I can feel uncomfortable or uncertain again. And I like very much the cultures. That's why I've been talking to you also, that my confidence was always related to sales, business development, and cultures, because I felt like whatever I'm doing, is it an airline business, building representations all around the world, or connecting airlines together to make partnerships, or then putting also projects outside aviation. It's now an IT sphere, for example. I've seen the most important factor that
whatever people do, from the strategic perspective, they also have to learn about each other, and they have to learn about cultures.
And also cultures of the organizations and the leadership also may really impact the success of the company. It's like
any organization can be like a natural organism or something really vivid, where you can see the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities. And let's say I felt like this
so-called American way of doing things, where you don't judge yourself by outcome again, and don't judge yourself by certain conditions, and you ready to experiment just because this is part of a culture, which is the base ground for the great innovative environment, creativity,
experiments, as you've been telling to us, and that actually brings this consistent feeling of changes. That change is the way of actually existing. It's not really the cause or threat of some kind of risk or losing something, but it's a lot like a signal of opportunities.
Yeah.
So, but we know that every culture is different. Like I work with the Scandinavian market, let's say, where uncertainties are not that accepted, like uncertainty avoidance, so-called,
can be much higher than let's say in US or Australia or South Africa, for example, where you can really come up with fresh new ideas, or China. Yeah, why we see such a high level of innovations is just because basically uncertainty avoidance is lower. So we can come up with the great ideas. And that's what you are saying, that you have inherited that ability to be ready for uncertainties and as a normal, let's say, state of mind where you drive yourself by these challenges. You sometimes create challenges for yourself.
I guess there are different how to say appetites for uncertainty by default. If you're used to having your own business, then you are just naturally more used to having uncertainty as a part of everyday professional life.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are areas in life where you don't want to have uncertainty. The less uncertainty, the better. But if we speak specifically business and kind of a professional growth, I think there's a healthy mix between uncertainty and certainty. Like partnerships, I don't want to have uncertainty. I want to have certainty and reliability. Uncertainty for the sake of uncertainty, I also don't think is an objective. But I think what is maybe like there are some people that are more through experience or maybe their personality can cope more with uncertainty. Yes, and that's what I see. And entrepreneurs is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
You are okay with not knowing exactly how things are going to work out. You're okay with not being in control fully of some kind of an outcome, and you through experience you understand that the worst thing happens. Okay, you lose some money, you lose some time, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's a unique special skill that people or skill or personality trait that people either have or don't have this ability to deal with uncertainty. I personally think it's a pure experience, a matter of experience, where if you start doing some projects on your own, you fail a little bit, you understand it's actually not that bad, or you get sued, for example.
Exactly.
Most people are like scared shitless from the idea of having to go to court.
Yeah.
Or if somebody sues, or like if there's a legal dispute, they think like there's a legal dispute and the next thing is you go to jail. That's like in business, especially for people that are not experienced. That's the perception they have. There's something and then I go to jail, and that's it's ridiculous. It's immature. And then you experience that and you understand, okay, that's how it works. It's okay. And so I think ability to deal with uncertainty is trainable to a large extent. That's my
An experience, of course.
Yeah, an experience. Yeah, for sure.
The more you practice yourself or provoke yourself in such an environment that you sometimes people get misled by the concept of comfort zone. They can consider comfort zone as comfort, but it's not anymore comfort.
Let's say you talk to someone who has built like existing quite a mature business, but they still think it's good and it's working, and they are set up too much in the existing terms, and they don't want to change just because they feel like it's all set and here we are, so we know everything. And when I hear
this statement, I know everything, I say, that's the risk, basically.
Dangerous.
Absolutely, that's the most dangerous part of most of the businesses. If you ask the company where you want to be in 5 or 10 years, what is the big vision you are going for? Is it really something that links together what you are doing now and where you want to be? Is there a link, or you still make little steps towards the big goal, but there is no connection anymore? You just because you feel it more comfortable, but it's not really your goal. It's not really the vision you are pursuing. And and then they start answering simple questions like, what are the values I'm going for after? Am I in the right track? Am I still talking to the same people, right people? Am I in the right environment? Am I contributing to the right people and the right, let's say, processes? Just because I lose most of my time and energy on the wrong things. So, I feel sometimes we need to put each other on the right track. That's what I see as a coach now. Since I am consulting companies, I enjoy the thing that people discover a lot about themselves just in course of understanding who we are and who they are and what the company are made for, because they are linked, like life and business, their personal development plus the business development all comes together. And if there is no common goal or common vision, they simply get misled with wrong values. And have you been experiencing some kind of, let's say, did you have in your life, in your business life, some kind of shift, like transformational shift? And what was the cause of it? Which really showed you that, okay, I am now going the absolutely new direction.
Shifts. I guess through experience, understanding what works, what doesn't, you should be constantly like, I don't know, changing approaches, strategies, mindset and so on. Transformational. Transformational. Maybe there have been some specific experiences that have been transformational in terms of how I deal with people. One of them that comes to mind is loyalty. I used to not value loyalty highly. I used to value ambition, IQ, or just like mental capacity and capability of getting things done. Being ambitious, having the drive, yes, and whether you are loyal, a partner or employee was kind of secondary. I thought, it's like, it doesn't really matter until we had some one specific instance where there was an employee who was working in my company for 5 years. He built out a big part of our business and then just left, which was all fine because he said he's joining another company completely unrelated, but turns out he stole our database, he stole some people, and he took over a project that he was working with in our company, and he just pursued that project and created his own company out of that. And then I understood that so you have to approach people management also from the angle of loyalty. That was one thing, but I don't know. I mean, there's so many things that are transformational. One important thing is that you understand that you're not your approach is not the best or the only one. People can do a better job than you. That for me was it sounds a bit ridiculous or a bit arrogant, but I was in environments where I was the best. I was the best at a university. My course, I was the best, not in grades, but in primary school, also in grades, in my class. So I was used to being like kind of the smartest until I got to an environment where I was just absolutely not the smartest. And there were good examples of people that are like absolutely more capable, more brilliant, far more brilliant than me in some areas. And then you understand, okay, that, it therefore makes sense that some people can come up with better ideas, better execution and so on. So that was transformational in building teams, delegating and so on. And also people have this tendency, the HR specialists have the tendency of saying, you have to delegate and just trust and see more in a person that they can see in themselves and all these very cool sound bites. But none of that works unless the person that you're delegating to or trusting is very strong at what they do. And the hard job is not the trusting and the delegation. The hard job is finding those people, is to create a team with people that are exceptionally talented, extremely hardworking, great attitude, that want or are ready to come work for you, and being able to afford to pay them bonuses, equity, whatever. That is the hard part. Then being able to delegate, of course, you kind of learn it, but the hard part is like finding super great high performance teams. So that was a big transformation, just like a learning experience. And then like 1,000 more technical things.
Absolutely. But learning people and about people is really significant transformation, I would say, because once you learn about the others, you learn about yourself.
Yeah.
So
I would say for me, it was always vice versa. It was once through experience, I learned more about me, my limitations, how other people perceive me, like kind of things that the way I see reality, which is not necessarily the objective reality.
Yeah.
And from learning about that, having a better self-awareness, introspection, you can become a better leader because then you are better at dealing with other people, right? So that I think is a lifelong kind of, learning. And I had this opportunity of having to hire people early on in my career. I was 22 when we started building the first company, hiring the first people. And then you're a young guy that has zero clue about working with people other than, in
the small community,
university team setups and so on, but not like actually managing, a group of people. So that was, I remember, very mind blowing, how do you put these together? And then you understand, okay, like one person is good working with another one, but is not that productive working with somebody else. And how do you give feel like all these things that seem like second nature once you are working on this for 15 years. The first time you're dealing with it, it was mind-blowing and very exciting. I always, I guess like for me in business, one of the things that I enjoy most is building teams and working with people. As opposed to, I'm not a product person. I'm not necessarily like, I don't know, great in marketing or any particular area. My focus has always been like, working with or building good teams.
Absolutely. And that's an art, I would say, because building teams is for the leader is the key success factor. Because most of the, let's say, misconception is that, yes, I have to invest in myself as a leader, but that's absolutely short-term thinking, I would say. The most sustainable is strategy is building the team that will help you to grow. And then you become a coach to your team, to your clients afterwards, and that's how you afterwards work with your partners and how it all reflects in the whole thing of cooperating with you as an organization. That I see a lot because I used to work both internal and external part, so I need to understand the culture of organization. And the main problems there are really this ability to listen to each other. Very simple thing. Communication is a must thing that everybody needs to learn in organization. And communication is about understanding and willingness to understand each other and willingness to hear each other, to be empathical. And then this loyalty is basically the secret of many complex things all together. Putting your values, the values of the others into the common goal, and trust. You also know that it just sounds so simple. The trust is like, it's a complex formula for trust. I have learned about it so many times through understanding business as such, and culture, and also relationships, why people build trust and why they lose trust. And it seems to be a very simple formula. If you are credible to your team, you are reliable to your team, and you are also empathical. But at the same time, like, what does it mean empathical? Meaning that you understand their point of state of mind, state of their current situation, why they take decisions the way they take them. I used to work a lot in diverse and interculturally diverse environments. So let's say I have one guy from Africa, another in US, another in India, and Swedish and Norwegian in working in one team. And what we can do is build trust on the same goal. So if I put trust formula, I would signify credibility, reliability, and empathy divided by self-orientation on the goal.
Why don't you just put the target and then, give delegate tasks and then see who performs, and those who don't perform, you fire them. That's what.
Yeah, that's a very simple formula. Very simple. So which is also right. I mean, that's your style of taking decisions. So and the decision should be, let's say, made based on what are the values of your organization, of yourself as a company. And the most important, how you reach your goals. Is it the way towards the achieving goals? Is it sustainable way? Or
what do you mean by sustainable?
Sustainable, more like it's long-term thinking or short-term thinking. How you used to balance decisions between short-term and long-term. Let's say you mentioned partnerships. I used to work a lot with partners and having long-term thinking in mind. Why? Because I see the results. I see that whatever I've built when I just started airline business and where I'm now,
those relationships still exist. Even company and my partner is still benefiting from what I have built for them. Because whatever we've been going through, is it good or bad situation, in aviation, in tourism, in transportation, you may have ups and downs all the time. It's really about trusting each other first. And then comes the business relationships. And then comes the product itself or the revenues. But for me, like long-term thinking in terms of partnership, building partnerships together, from the very first meeting, I see already potential opportunities. Even if you don't see them, I see them already, like 10 years ahead at least. And where both parties can benefit. And that's the secret of my, let's say, success. how would you say? How would you compare short-term, long-term thinking in your
I have
practical?
a very different view, very different approach. There are some partnerships that are by default short-term, where you, let's say, buy a company or some transaction, and then I don't really care about making long-term, relationship. You want to extract as much value as possible. So that's a conscious choice that you make based on circumstances. In most cases, of course, those are more long-term relationships with employees, with business partners, in some cases joint venture partners or similar, or investors that also invest have invested in my first business, and they've continued investing in other ventures that I've created. What's the question?
So how you balance short-term, long-term thinking,
long-term.
In decision making as a leader, as a partner.
I don't know. I guess I only focus on long-term, but what is it? I don't know. I guess we need to look at a specific case. I don't know if we're launching a business. I want the manager, the COO, or let's say the CEO, or whoever is like doing the day-to-day running of the business, to be there for 3, 5, ideally more years, and to be capable of running the whole business, not for just launch phase, but like in the long term. And so I therefore think very carefully about how to make sure that the remuneration package, how the person gets paid, is incentivizing in the long term and aligning with my interest as a shareholder, and allows me, for example, to be in a position where I don't have to control this person, I don't have to worry, and so on and so forth. So, for example, giving shares, basically making sure that we both have a benefit from the upside, and that person also is responsible for risks and downsides. So that's a long example of a long-term kind of structuring and thinking. One example. Second example with the same category, which is employees. From my experience, all employment relationships are limited, and nowadays this time frame actually gets shorter, not longer. I don't particularly focus on making friendships or more personal relationships with, let's say, employees, because I know they will end, and the investment it takes, to build kind of out of work relationships, it's quite a lot. I don't have that time, or I just don't view these things that way. So I approach employment relationships very transactionally. There needs to be a very clear job contract, clear expectations about what's expected from the person. That's, would you call it a short-term approach? Maybe it's a finite kind of a way to look at the relationships in a finite kind of angle. But then I guess it depends on what category, what we're talking about exactly.
Meaning that, let's say, if you look at your business strategically, you meet partners, you want to sign up for some kind of partnership long term, then those values should really meet for some time.
Yeah, I agree. What is more important than values is what's written
in the contract.
In the contract.
Of
course, having like a good understanding. Man, trust me, I've especially lately in the Middle East, I've had so many disappointing instances of working with these idiots. Sometimes that you just think you're on the same page. You put in the work, and then
nothing,
and then some kind of complete misunderstanding happens. But anyway, so my actual learning from that is to be very careful about not overspending time and resources before you see that the other party is serious, committing money, so basically making sure that whoever that other side is, if it's an employee or an investor or a joint venture partner, that they deliver what they said they will. And if you see that they do what they promised, then that builds trust, and that allows me, or gives me confidence to also expand my resource, efforts, and energy. And I've had that mistake of trying to do everything possible to make things happen in, let's say, a joint venture or in a partnership, and then things fall apart, and I have put in so much more work, not necessarily money, but more work than the other side. And I get very disappointed. And you have to be very careful and realistic about these things.
Exactly. That's what I help my company as well, because they really rush for really fast and quick result.
Right.
When they're
Going into a new market, especially, I call it go-to-market strategy assessment, because before they start, they come, first of all, let's say they take Middle East, which is very common request recently. Is it Scandinavia for Latvians, for example, or Middle East? And it feels like one seems to be simple because it's close by, and it turns out absolutely opposite, right? Because it's small, but at the same time, it's very complicated cultural-wise, and it takes years for them to build something really solid there.
and I can probably share the results from the consulting part. But before they come into certain results, they have to do a lot of things and mistakes and learn from those mistakes in order to succeed. But let's say for Middle East, again, the same story, too many expectations, too high expectations. Seems to be very simple at the beginning, seems to be very tempting money-wise. But what I helped them at the very beginning to answer to the question, are you ready for that? And are you ready for all those things that you don't know? And there will be plenty of them. And go-to-market strategy works on really those clear understanding. Am I ready? Is my organization ready? Are those differences accepted or not accepted or familiar to my organization now? Because definitely I don't say that you don't have to. You have to come into these challenges. You have to try yourself in the new challenging market, because that's growth for you and your company. But you simply need to adjust to those risks, as you say, and be ready for them. Otherwise, these uncertainties about contracts, about agreements, it's just part of a culture. It's basically, you cannot resist to it. You just take it as granted. You take it as opportunity, not the risk, but as opportunity. I used to establish myself and my company, let's say airline, in, let's say, Turkish market, which is
almost impossible for the small Latvian organization. Why? Because I've simply been ready to accept all these uncertainties as opportunities, and I found a partner who was becoming my face of my organization, very well adding value to my organization, and my product is adding value to their product. So this is how you end up successfully with these unclear and uncertain terms and conditions. Same for Middle East. I have found a partner who was basically part of my business story. So my story of my company, of my philosophy, of my product philosophy was very much connected with their expectations. And so, yes, we come as one. Basically, all these unknown terms of contract, unknown terms or unknown outcomes were covered just by the fact that we work as one. We work as one team. We work as one, let's say, face and brand. And thus you feel much secure, of course, without being very experienced in that market. You simply need to find your people in the market. That's what I've learned from very different regions, depending on the, let's say, difficulty. Some regions really can be easily, naturally developed. I see some countries where you can enter without even a partner and do that very successfully. And for some, you need representation, but these representation should be natural to you. As I said, should be a great match between the values, understanding each other, and also understanding the future of each other, right, in this market, because we create the brand, we create the awareness, and it costs a lot. Money, time, everything, effort, people, and everything around development. So that's why I am so excited that, first of all, we are here not to be afraid of any challenges, right? Just to sum up, what you would offer to global growth-oriented entrepreneurs. What are the 3 things they need to do in order to succeed nowadays, knowing that nowadays these times are full of challenges, full of uncertainties. Just, I don't see anything fixed today in our world.
What I would offer for, I don't know, try to think of experiments and going into new markets in a way that's cheap and fast. Instead of spending a year more and trying to raise a lot of money for something that might just very quickly not turn out the way you expected. That's one. Cheap and fast experiments. MVP type of approach and mindset. That would be one. Second is to have a very realistic expectation if you're going abroad for the first time, especially that it's very hard. It takes a longer time than you would normally plan. It's generally harder if you're a small organization. Nobody cares about you. Nobody wants you. Nobody knows you. So you have to be resilient. Especially if you're hiring people and you don't have a big brand, you're not a big company, and you're trying to hire somebody that comes from a good employment. It's very hard to build teams in the beginning. So to realistically have an expectation that things are they're hard, they're not easy. That's the second thing. What's the third thing? The third thing is copy with pride. Follow, companies, maybe competitors that are doing exactly what you want to do somewhere that works. They've done all the hard work. Maybe they've made the mistakes. They've created the market. And if you are coming more or less as a startup or as a company that doesn't have a lot of resources, millions in capital that you can experiment with, just see what works and copy an existing competitor or some people that are doing something already, instead of having to reinvent everything. So yeah,
that's amazing. I really encourage everyone to take these experiments as part of your culture, because today, as I said, there is nothing is fixed. We keep learning every day. We keep on developing every day. We keep on changing, brains sometimes, because that's how the life is showing us that nothing is fixed, and the only thing you can take care of is yourself, is your focus, is your orientation on the right things you really want to achieve. And I encourage everyone to think big, think broad, be open, be growth oriented. Whatever happens, every challenge is the signal for some kind of improvement, and it's just part of you. And if you really need to get readiness into entering in the new market, I invite to my go-to-market strategy challenge, which is like 3 days challenge, where I used to invite more than, let's say, 20 companies globally to start with their assessment of their readiness towards the new market. We can choose any of them that you like most. Plus, we understand your growth mindset in organization, whether it works or not. Where are let's say, culturally, are you ready for that? What are these blocks? Because a lot of things are really in the organization and in the leadership as well. Leadership style maybe can be absolutely against global thinking, right? And that's something we have to get rid of from the beginning. The second stuff is about the second day of the challenge is about strategy, about sales, marketing, localizing your product, localizing your message, also building and understanding whom to sell, how to sell, and what are the let's say, the key tools you need to operate with in order to build your unique value proposition. And the third thing is really about communication, how you deliver that, because we can speak a lot about strategies, we can speak a lot about tools, but if there is no way of no understanding how to build relationships and trust through whatever you are doing, selling, promoting, talking, presenting, then basically there is no use to continue. So, and understanding cultures, for sure. That's a key part of the whole thing. So I invite you to one of my next events also, which will be in Tallinn, the mastermind on with global leaders and leaders in Emirates and Saudi Arabia coming together and masterminding great ideas towards these markets. So I would love to see you all there in Tallinn, 22nd of May, and also follow for more amazing episodes.
Cool.
With our guests, global leaders.
Cool. Thank
See
you.
you there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matiss. It was a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you.
Enjoy.